Hello, David and Peter.
Where's Peter? Oh, Peter's connecting. Oh, okay. So, yes.
Hi, Char.
That's weird. I can't see.
Where's the dance star? Are you going to wear your outfit for tonight and makeup and everything for us?
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, I thought
This is what made the difference.
No.
I was thinking I'd put Kathleen's photo on the screen, but I thought that without your permission, that just wouldn't be right. Yeah.
I don't mind, Char.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Oh, look at that. It's a wonderful picture of you.
Oh, what picture?
You look.
No, that's me.
I said a wonderful picture of
No, that's
you.
not what she's talking about.
Oh, okay, yes.
What is the matter?
Nothing doesn't matter. I'm a button pop. Damn. My thoughts pop.
You're not muted, so
No, that's
no
fine.
players.
yes, I can hear and I can see the jiggly.
This month really went past fast, hey?
Oh my gosh. Can't believe it.
And that was funny that you had, what did you say, Fridays? You used to do your dancing on
Yeah, I
Fridays.
know. And an electric mermaid switched, and then my dance switched. Terrible.
Well, you should tell them to switch back to Friday.
Yeah, they can go to Friday. We like Wednesdays better.
I know.
But that's good for you. Like, did you do dancing when you were younger, like in your teens and stuff?
Oh, no. This is something I started when I got too old to worry.
Oh, okay. Because I can barely bend down these days, let alone like dance. Like, I don't know how. I commend you. I congratulate you. Good for you. Oh, Derek's here! Yay!
Yay, Derek Hanebury, man of the moment, man of La Mancha.
Oh, Lord, now I've got to.
So we're live. We're not unmuted, and we're live.
Yes.
So what?
And we're being recorded.
We're being recorded as well.
And my name has been changed
Oh,
to, because I'm number one
Kathleen
tonight.
Vance, yes.
Oh, so we don't-
You can close that. Do you want to close that bit?
Yeah, I can
The top
close that
right.
bit.
Okay. Oh,
What?
well, there was another way of closing it.
Oh, well, I like the one
Oh.
who just, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm making it worse.
Yes.
You.
I like the view we have, speaker view.
So we're gonna.
Can we have a speaker view,
We're gonna skip
please?
our 10 minutes. She just
Where's
she's gonna-
Spratton? I can't see Spratton.
So
David,
I'm
there
Oh,
you are.
There he is.
This is
hiding out.
Spratton.
Spratton, yeah.
When I
Yeah.
first got on computers
Last
and
minute.
everyone was paranoid, me too, I didn't want my name as my,
Yeah.
as my email. So I just chose a village
A
name.
village. Yeah, I had to Google it. That was pretty funny.
Oh,
So-
really?
Well, but I didn't, but I have to.
Oh,
asked
so
you.
she found out all about the village. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but
that's
remember,
why.
you wrote back to me because I emailed you asking why.
Oh, you did, yes.
And you replied back.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
But what,
Yeah.
actually, you're not the only one. A couple of people have said they were so curious they Googled the word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not that curious. I just need,
Oh, good.
like, let's be honest. There's only so much I can do in a day.
Yes.
David, explain it to me. It saved me some time here in that work. But it's funny, you guys are like one or the other, and you're.
I know.
It's a camera. It's a funny camera.
Oh, it's because you're not sitting next to me, David.
No, but even if I were, you would overshadow me.
Scooch in. But you sound perfect.
Yeah.
You're lit perfectly.
Yeah.
But I can only see one.
There,
The other.
Oh,
There. Oh. And you're both kind of tanned. Like you're looking good.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
we're looking
you.
good.
Sun.
It's cold and rainy here today.
Oh, really? No, we've had sun all
19
day.
degrees. I'm regretting having turned off the furnace.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
gee.
What to do? It's
Yeah.
okay for me, but for my guests,
Yeah.
for Electric Mermaid guests, they
Yeah.
want it cold. So Sheila put the candles on for us,
Oh, good. That's a good idea.
You can all stand over a candle.
right? Yeah, just hover over the candle because last week it was 24 degrees
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
26 degrees in here.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So we said no candles last week,
Yeah.
but this week, yeah. Anyway, I'm cold, so I'm gonna go now. I've had my brief, and
Tiny little break from work.
yeah, I was saying to Karl and Sheila that there's a lot of logistics right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit.
Yeah.
With your help, we'll get through the night.
Oh, yeah, we will. No problem.
Yeah.
Karl says, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in,
Yes.
breathe out. Oh, but I have to be careful because Peter Paul Van Camp is online. I don't know if he's listening.
Oh,
Oh, he seems to be still connecting.
he's lurking.
Yeah, so I have to be careful of what I say.
Yeah.
Both. Breathing.
Mum's the word. Mum's the word. But you guys will pick up the pieces if I have a
Yes.
freak out. I can't take it anymore. It's all good.
I like this. Char.
Karl looks happy.
But tourism, guys, I know because you're family, you get it. But May has well exceeded my best ever June.
Oh, really?
wow.
Oh, that's
It's just like I don't know what I'd do without Karl. Okay, Peter Paul's back. There he is. But yeah, the Europeans are back. Yeah, they're back.
Oh,
And
good.
and they share
stars.
rooms, right? So I've had up to 9 individual backpackers, strangers,
Jeez.
9 people. So that's 9 bookings.
Yeah.
Wow.
It used to be for one room, it was 1 booking, and now it can be 9 bookings in one room. So just a little, but in a good way, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
complaining. I'm
No.
She's happy to have the Europeans back at her place.
happy to have the Europeans back.
Europeans. what? Europeans are like never a country called Europea.
There's a Europea.
Europea. Yes.
So it's a
But it's
good
kind of
thing.
funny when you say Europe.
It's a good thing. But next
the
time you guys come
Europeans.
here and go to take me with you.
Please take her with her.
Take me with
I'm letting her go. We'll just
Take
close
me
that.
with
Well, you guys come.
Yeah.
We'll have a booking just for you, and then you guys go, and then that's it. It's done.
Take me with you. Yeah.
We'll close the rest of it down that night.
Yeah. Karl will be in charge. Karl in charge. Anyhow, have a great night. Oh, I
yes,
recorded.
thank
Did I
you.
record this whole conversation?
Yeah, you did.
We are recording.
Uh-oh.
Oh, great. I hope I didn't.
Score.
You didn't even realize that.
Last time I almost forgot to turn on the recording. Right?
Oh,
She
But
started recording way
I got
before
this
we were
whole
already on.
thing. I'll send it home to Mom. Yeah. Oh, I had my cousins here in May.
yeah.
I had 12 cousins. Well, 11 cousins
Wow.
and my aunt, my one, and we had such a good time. I will send
Oh,
you
wow.
pictures, but it was something akin to when you guys come. That for them to see Chars, for them to now when I look at there's these gold satin sheets. My auntie, my mom's sister, slept in them, and she said I felt like a queen, you know. And so now when I make that bed with the gold satin sheet, I think of my auntie, right? It's just a really good thing. So, and akin to when you guys were here and Peter Paul Van Camp was here, and like it brings it enhances our world. So thank you.
So when are you coming back?
We have no comment to make at this time.
Okay.
A spokesman will be issued later.
Okay. I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait for that, you know.
I'm going to try and move the camera so
You're going to try and move the camera.
I tell you why.
Why don't you?
Because I would like us to sit here, both at the same level and the same position, because with this at the moment, I can't get in the picture. I mean, it's terrific for you.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to.
But that's right. Okay, good. So we'll let you have that.
Because the problem is that
Yes.
you like to sit back on the sofa and I like to sit forward.
Yeah, I know. Way forward, engaged.
But you can move forward for the time being. There he is. There's Peter Van Camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
I try to. There's a certain time I'll do
Mhm.
the right.
so it's only 5:40.
Because I'll put it in there and then I'll write it. So it emails me like say like maybe.
So I tried to time this, of course, but I need to do a little bit of transition.
To rearrange things. Yeah.
How's Peter Paul Van Camp?
He's muted.
No, I'm speaking in a loud, clear voice. You know, it's actually raining here.
We loved having you here. It was so much
thanks.
fun to have you here. My cousins were here. You
Oh,
guys
you know,
were a hit.
Your cousins made the show for us, I think.
And right back at you. They loved you. Loved you.
Well, we loved them. They were a great audience.
And of course, you guys know that Derek is moving, right? And today is his last day in his house.
Oh, Ray, Derek.
We won over the what do you call it? The possession date. We won. Electric Mermaid won. Yeah.
That's only
Well,
fitting.
even if he had moved out, he would have still come. He might not have looked great, but he would have been here. He's moved back. He's moving out. I've moved back in.
Oh, wonderful.
So one moves out, one moves in.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So remember Karl had to move out because
Yes, the floods.
That's right. There's a lot.
There's Jennifer Wren.
Evening.
Evening.
Hi.
Yeah, it's okay.
I lose name. I keep forgetting, isn't it?
Oh.
Hey, Dan. All right. Dan Biggs, is he on here? No. We gotta sign that man up.
Change it to 4 I can change it. And then at 4 I can't. Press it out.
I have to raise myself up a bit.
That's what I was going to arrange.
Well, no, just set out some more covers.
I That's a very good picture
Oh,
of
there's
you.
Joe.
Oh. Joe Lunchbucket, yes, good.
It's not a picture of me. That's me.
That's you, top left.
It's not a picture of me.
Picture of you. You mean in the picture or
No.
the actual living picture?
What picture was
You said a picture of you. I was looking around the room to see if there was a picture of you.
that was.
Right.
I don't know what's it. Oh, so Derek's moved. Good for him. That's good. Oh, pouring rain in Port Alberni. You mentioned that.
Yes.
Dan Biggs. Yeah, Dan Biggs. Yeah. I'm I think I'm ready for a mic check whenever you are, sure. This is a mic check. This is a checking of the mic. This is a microphone check moment. Hi to Zoomers. Hello.
Hello,
Hi, we
Derek.
hear you.
We hear Derek.
In Zoomland.
Yes.
Uh-huh. My advice for the week or for the month, do not move. I am never moving again.
What the only movie you should do is this kind of moving.
Ugh. We had months to prepare and I thought, we're all ready for this, no problem. But oh my God. I'm still going to be going home to
And there's Leslie.
probably a last load of stuff.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then we're moving into the RVs. I still haven't even filled up the water tanks in the RVs yet.
Oh,
So, well, we have water there now. The water didn't work out for a while. We had to dig things up and find out what happened. And the water line just it must have got severed somewhere. So we had to reconnect and, oh my God, it's been a lot of fun.
Where are you moving to?
So to an acreage just out of town. So, just kind of like right outside the city limits. So the property taxes dive and it's pastoral and quiet and beautiful. But right now it's a couple of RVs on a gravel pad and a big hole in the earth with some forms set for the footings, and that's it.
And you're going to build something there, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Good for you.
If it gets cold, if it gets too cold, he might have to say, Char, do you have room?
Yeah, I might have to move into Char's. Yeah, I don't know. You moved the camera like that. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it's sort of even. Yeah. It goes from being too dark to too bright. So somewhere in the middle there. That's about the best I can do, I think. Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. I need
Just
to
like
bring
Kathleen, perfect.
I have a ring, one of those ring lights. It's probably somewhere in the middle of the big steel box I packed
And she's got her natural hair color again.
right now.
oh.
Everybody joins, it goes smaller. Like the puzzle goes smaller. Yeah.
Anyway, was the volume okay, Char? Is the volume okay? It's all good on the mic? Perfect.
Derek always sound fantastic.
Awesome. All right. I'm bellowing tonight.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, Bill's on the list. There he is. Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good. You guys?
Good.
Yeah.
Except for the bellowing. Did I hear bellowing was going on?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of bellowing. I get louder as I get older. Just
Ah,
Pay attention.
how's the sales going on the novel?
adequate. I'm still waiting for a couple of reviews to come in that might push it over, and who knows what else. We'll see. But so it's a start.
Good. Yeah, I saw you doing some signings and stuff and some reads, so that's awesome. Good to hear.
Mark, can we hear you?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah, is that all right?
On the rug.
I hear you.
Oh,
All right.
you see that thing for the banking?
Very good.
The little glass jar.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Char.
We had so much fun when you guys were here,
Yeah, it was super fun.
and my
Yeah.
cousins were really, really happy.
Yeah, good.
They
That's
really enjoyed, really enjoyed.
good. Yeah, they were very nice.
Yeah, for entertaining. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Made up the people that weren't here, like me and Derek. They made up for us.
I was
Very-
so sad I couldn't make it. I had this company show up out of town and I couldn't drag them, let alone myself, out the door. And so I missed it. So you got to come back. That's all there is to it.
Another time.
You're gonna come
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
Sure.
Awesome.
All right.
We're gonna come
So I
back.
hear it was.
We're gonna get you at a good
blast.
month that no one's gonna be able to go anywhere.
right. Not December, but yeah.
No, not December. Like we won't go anywhere. Like we won't travel. We'll make sure we're not traveling.
Gotcha. Super. All right.
The Last Supper, and that's why we put the big table out. And all it is popcorn. Kathleen.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
Oh, there, I can hear you loud and clear. You know, we're really enjoying tourism right now downstairs, and we have so many friends from Germany. So many
wow.
backpackers. People from Germany are the best tourists. They are the best. You can do a thumbs up. You can tell all your friends that you guys are, people from Germany are the best travelers. I know you are.
And so is David and Kathleen, even though they're not
Yeah,
from
they
here.
were good. Yeah, they were good.
And Peter and Mark were probably good.
Yeah,
Well,
Peter and
whoever- I
Mark
don't know
were
who's-
good. But the German tourists are. So please spread the word. Let them
Yes,
know.
any friends there,
The
tell them to
country
come to
should be
Char.
proud.
Tell them, and hopefully some of them will come up and listen tonight.
When I traveled in Germany many years ago, now I was hitchhiking, and I'll never forget. My friend and I were hitchhiking together, and a young couple picked us up. And they took us home, and he moved into her apartment for the night, gave us his apartment. They took us out for Greek food, toured us around the little town that they were in, and then the next morning, like, drove us out to the perfect spot to hitchhike on the highway and dropped us off and said, "Have a great trip." And it was just mind blowing. Best hosts as well as the best travelers. So there you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And if they drove him where he had to go, and that would have been over the notch. That would have been me. If I had a license, I would have done that.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Do you feel social? Could you do the sound check? Bob, go say hello and do the sound check for us.
Yeah. All right. Mic check coming on the podium. Mic check to the podium.
Testing.
How's the voice coming through? I got a frog in my throat. Can you tell?
Grivet? Grivet?
I got to get a hot tea.
Say, hey, Zoomers, can you hear me? Hey, Zoomers.
Is that better?
Sounds good here.
Sounds good out in Zoomland?
Yes.
Yeah.
Say, hey, Zoomers. Can you hear me? Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you're a little faint, but I can hear you.
Hello, Poland. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good job, lad. Good
All
job.
right.
Vicki, do you want to do the sound check? Thank you.
Did I what?
That was perfect. Thank you. Hey, Bomber. Yeah. Would you like to? You are You are our person. So, okay.
That is really threatening. No, it's fine. It's
Oh,
good.
there's Leslie. Did you see?
Yes, I saw Leslie.
I didn't see Leslie till just now.
Oh, well, she can't see you at all.
Oh, that's all right.
David.
He's in the corner.
Hi, David, wherever you are.
The screen is not big enough for both of us.
Vicky's now going to talk.
So, can you hear me, Char? Keep talking. Okay. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a lady called Char, and she was the most beautiful lady in the land, and people came from far and wide to see Char and perform at her.
Behind the door.
As far as I can get. I'm sorry.
I don't think they should get dust in them.
They
You hear that?
Did everyone hear that? CBC Radio published, Stuart McLean published, Vicki Drybrough just put a shout out to the Char. Who? Me? Did everyone hear that loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay. Super.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Hey, Sean, I'm just at the Mermaid, but I'll order it real quick to go to your place, right?
To know what just bend it down. Yeah.
We got to give a big thank you to Vicki. Our feature reader backed out and she stepped right in. So that's awesome.
So this.
That's what Little Mermaid is all about.
To melt it.
Someone can't do it. Someone steps up to
Straight
this
into
plate.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, so you're right, that poster, yes.
And Bill, your site is finally working. I've tried to do that and it never worked, but this time it worked. Every time I'm like not working, I'm like, what's going on here? But today it worked. So Kathleen and David, I'm waiting to hear about the book you're gonna write.
Oh, please.
What's
I'm
it
waiting,
we?
waiting for you to start a publisher.
Amazon could do it for you.
Oh my God.
And McDonald's too. Amazon and McDonald's. Well, you said, "Oh my God."
No, oh. I've gone mute.
Oh, you've gone to mute, yes.
Or I'll try to find a publisher out there for you.
Oh, that's good, Karl. You can be my agent.
Yeah, there you go.
20% he takes.
If I knew how to publish, I would do that too, but I don't really know much about that.
There's a little bit to it. I've heard there's a bit to it. Yeah.
One of our local authors on Denman, Joanne McLean, will be doing a workshop at our Readers and Writers Festival on self-publishing. She's mastered the whole art of it and has published numerous books and now publishes her own. But yeah,
Send her email to us. So maybe we can, people that live here or Gibsons and don't have a publisher, we can maybe get her to be the publisher.
She may not want to do other people's, but she knows the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will send the email anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Love to hear from her too.
When is Writers Festival happening there this year?
The middle of June, something like the 17th is when the 5-day workshop begins, and I forget who's doing it. Angie, I think. Anyways, and then the Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about that festival, and in fact, our featured reader Vicki has been there. She really sang its praises. Yep. Excellent. Good. Okay.
1 minute to.
Well, I'm trying to get so it's not showing the top of the room and not showing your head. Now it's showing everything perfectly. Look.
We're not muted.
I know.
So we mustn't argue.
Oh, that's...
Where'd Leslie go? She probably left. Yeah, is Leslie coming back?
Back.
You're getting tired.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It's time.
But it's okay. I went to bed did you get my email?
Yes, thank you.
I really went to bed at 8:30.
Watching tonight. I was so burnt out earlier having a nap. Being intense. So the poem I was going to read tonight, I'll read next month. Yeah.
Next.
Okay, team. I think we're all getting settled down. I think this is it. It's time again for Electric Mermaid. Woo! Yay! What happened to this week's spotlight? Okay, I'm gonna. Oh, there I am. Where's Derek? Okay, I got to put my duties back on. But welcome everybody.
Electric Mermaid Emcee Derek Hanebury is a Port Alberni writer of poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction who taught writing here at North Island College for many years. His latest book, Both Sides Now, is a collaboration of short fiction with two of his past students. His upcoming solo collection, entitled Something Else Is Out. Something Else Altogether is Out.
Thank you, Karl. And so glad to be here. Yay, Karl. So glad to be here for this Electric Mermaid, and looking forward to, we got a full roster of readers again, of open micers, and also Vicki Drybrough, my past partner in crime from Both Sides Now, is going to read, and looking forward to what she's got. It's always entertaining and thought-provoking. So let's begin by saying we're coming to you from the unceded territory of the Hupetcheseth and Sichet First Nations, and grateful to them for sharing their land with us. And we're also in downtown Port Alberni, which is graced with a little bit of rain today, and gratefully is not on fire like many other places in Alberta and north part of the island, and hopefully not everywhere else soon, but it's remarkably dry here for the end of May. Anyway, my throat will hang in here. It's full of moving dust because I've been moving for the last for the last 3 months really, but the last 3 days very intensely, and I'm surprised I have any hair left at all. Anyone wants to test your marriage relationship? Try moving. Actually, maybe they should do that before people have children. Get them to move a 3-bedroom house together and see how that works out. But anyway, my marriage is intact, and I'm grateful for that too. So let's begin tonight with Kathleen Vance over on the Sunshine Coast there. And Kathleen and David are, where's David? Is he?
He's hiding.
Okay, you're filling the screen unusually, and that's good though. We're glad. Kathleen, please take it away.
Okay, this is a continuation of last month's story. So in last month, a member of the garden club, Petunia, was found dead after a club meeting. And so the police officer has asked the president of the club to sit in on the interviews of everyone who was at the party the night the body was found. So the first one was Tom Atto. Tom, remember how Amaryllis was so opposed to my plan to sponsor a garden at the community housing complex? Amaryllis is Tom's wife, officer. Amaryllis said our club dues should be spent on us who had earned them, not on a bunch of poor people. Those were her words, not mine. Yes, I remember, Tom replied, while looking shiftily at both of us. To me, he said, when Amaryllis brought up her objections at the meeting, you told her that those people wouldn't be so poor if her family's factory paid them decent wages. I do remember telling her that roses would be blooming in January before that happened. But it was you, Tom, who added that if the factory didn't buy some decent scrubbers and other air cleaning equipment, we would end up with no snow, blooming flowers all winter, and a drought by June. Sounds like quite a battle in your garden club, the handsome officer commented. Oh, if you're president, you learn how to handle disagreements, dear. What I remember about Amaryllis is how much she was opposed to Tom's growing vegetables. That's true, Tom admitted. Amaryllis only cared for flowers, and she took over the entire garden at our house. I told her I was going to show up in a giant excavator and dig it all up. Then one day she just left. Didn't even pack a suitcase. Yes, Tom asked me to come by and sort out her things. It was just too depressing for him. Beautiful dresses in lilac and floral prints. Stunning, but not my style. I sold them all at a local consignment shop and later introduced Tom to Mary, who works at the garden store. She helped him use the sales money to select companion plants, flowers such as nasturtiums that ward off pests and enrich the soil, and are particularly good for tomatoes. Mary's been worth her weight in gold to Tom. Marigold, he calls her. The vegetables love her, and the deer hate her. The very best thing for the garden. Officer, you should talk to Violet Sweet next. It wasn't that long after Amaryllis left that the club lost Violet's partner, Bee. Violet was so timid, she nearly shrank into her chair. She barely spoke above a whisper. Bee said we would always be together, and then suddenly she was gone. It was just after that big fight at the club meeting about the butterfly garden. Such a wonderful project that was. The club was going to plant flowers all along the lanes to attract butterflies, but Bee was dead set against it. So she started calling on all the houses along the lanes, claiming it would bring in crowds of gawkers who would in turn provide cover for petty thieves. If only she had read some of those gardening magazines she subscribed to, Bee would have realized how invaluable the project would have been for neighborhood beautification and ecology education. As club president, I tried to tell her that. Oh, those magazines. They took over the entire spare room from floor to ceiling. When my sister took ill and needed looking after, I wanted her to stay with us, but there was no room. At least some good came from Bee's disappearance. Out went all the back issues, and in came my sister. About Petunia, Mrs. Sweet, how did you feel about her, and when did you last see her? No flies on this officer, I thought. No need for insect sprays or sticky traps when he's around. Everyone loved Petunia, Violet replied shyly, but nobody noticed her. I know what that's like, officer. Next to be interviewed was Doug Root, who was visibly angry and eager to talk. Yeah, I was at that meeting. I came near to have it all out once and for all with that stupid garden club. I know my Holly has her sharp edges, but all she did was point out how important our traditional plants are. The Scotch broom, the daphne, the English ivy, the Himalayan blackberry, all the plants we grew up with. Was there a fracas, a rhubarb at the meeting, Mr. Root? And that's all that fits 5 minutes tonight. So you won't know who did it yet.
Oh. We're left hanging again. Oh my God. And we sleep. Love your dialogue. Thank you so much, Kathleen. All right. And I neglected to mention that when we opened tonight that we are also coming to you from beautiful Char's Landing, and we should have a little moment of gratitude to Char and thank her for hosting us. High-fiving from the back there. And if anyone's feeling grateful, electricmermaidreads@gmail.com. You can do a little e-transfer if you're out there in Zoom land. And thanks to the people here who are supporting Char's Landing. We're so grateful to have her here. All right, we're going to go to Ontario now, and Jennifer Wenn's going to share some more poetry with us, I believe. How's Jennifer this evening?
Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. You're looking good as always.
Yeah, wonderful to be here. Well, be there. Yeah, two things. The first is a little piece from, I'll remind you again, the new book that's out there. And I see Karl's posted things. Thank you, Karl. The information's there. This is a little one called Hatchlings. Fetal, cowering under a black haze, shrinking from the oncoming day, insistently knocking at the window, when comes the lure of the familiar burble. My daughter, reaching out from half a world away, texting evening pictures from a Sri Lankan beach, tiny baby turtles pushing up through the sand, breaking free, past the hand-lettered sign, carefully marking place and Christmas Eve embedding. Another burble, more images from her, little ones skittering to the ocean to claim their place. Entranced, she celebrates her joy and wonder, transporting me, and I am there too, witnessing new hope take its first steps. Thank you. Now, the next one is longer, and it's newer. If you're a transgender person, there's a number of things that are challenging, and in this day and age, they're getting more and more all the time. One of the things is trying to find yourself in literature, history, anywhere. This piece is called The Hunter, and you'll see, I think, what's going on here as you follow along what I tried to do. Shortly into it, there is a distance measurement, and it equates to about 10 kilometers when you hit it. There is an epigraph. After Metamorphoses by Antoninus Liberalis, which contains the only Greek mythological reference, a brief one, to Saproides. Just south of ancient fabled Crete, 50 stadia and a few more, reposes a little rocky, uninhabited pair of islets named Letoa, after immortal Leto, seduced by Zeus and chased the world over by jealous Hera. These barren outcrops Leto's refuge to bear divine twins. Dazzling Apollo, god of music, dance, and prophecy, lord of healing and poetry, and noble Artemis, fiercely virginal goddess of the hunt, young women and chastity, mistress of animals and the wilderness. Artemis loved to roam Crete's mountains and valleys, bow in hand, stalk the deep forests and ravines, luxuriate in clear waters far from mortal habitations, where resided both newly arrived and enduring families. One clan, long replete with artists, seers, and healers, venerated her sibling Apollo especially. All but Saproides, called son and brother, whose heart stood apart, never at home, even when cocooned with family doing ritual obeisance, a solitary amidst the Apollonian throngs. Ceremonies over, Saproides' feet would drift away from that shrine to the now quiet temple of Artemis, irresistibly drawn to her great statue, and then stare long in confusion and wonder until, prompted by an unnameable torment, would seize a great bow and in emulation strike out, but alone, into the woods, lithe and graceful, dancing over roots and rocks, slipping through tangle and thicket, hunting always and only the great stags, till driven home by a sought-for but punishing exhaustion. One summer's day, finding neither prey nor peace, Saproides wandered far, over a forested crag and into a hidden gorge, thinking to find renewal at a summoning stream. Parting a curtain of tall ferns, Saproides froze in amazement, for there, bathing in the clear waters, none other than Artemis herself, revealed in all her glory. Their eyes locked for a moment, awe and a sudden flash of envy momentarily coursing through human veins, until Saproides in shame averted the gaze and stammered out an apology for rudely but accidentally intruding on her divine tranquility. Artemis regarded the quaking mortal for long seconds, finally speaking slowly, "No, indeed, you are not like some who think to violate and hence suffer. But no man can see me thus and remain living as he is." At which Saproides' head drooped further in trembling acknowledgement. "But I have seen into your heart, traveled its veiled byways, found its lost trails, and the riddle they encompass answers all, for you are no man." With that, Artemis waved an imperious arm and transmuted Saproides' outer form to a glorious feminine, stunning her with coruscating, transcendent waves of fire, shock, bewilderment, denial, release, revelation, relief, acceptance, and celebration. Finally regaining speech, Saproides dropped to one knee. "I have no words except to ask for some way to show inexpressible gratitude." Artemis, in turn, extended a hand. "Rise and follow. One quest for you has ended. Hunt with me from now on." And there's a postscript. The Cretan Saproides had also been turned into a woman for having seen Artemis bathing when out hunting. And that's the complete reference from Metamorphoses by Antoninus Liberalis. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
2 poems about rebirth. Perfect.
Yeah.
I saw they worked together, and love your rendition of that. That was gorgeous.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna go to live here at Char's now, and our featured reader Vicki Drybrough is gonna take the podium. And Vicki is a longtime writer here in Port Alberni, and I first met Vicki in one of my creative writing classes. As there was kind of a core community of writers that grew up around some of those classes, and Vicki was, and Libby who's here, and Dan Biggs who's joined us again tonight after a long hiatus. All were part of that, and I look back on those times with great fondness. I think there was a lovely synchronicity of energies that was happening, and lots of creativity. And Vicki, your work right from the get-go was always work that I really admired. And for those of you who remember her stories, if you've heard them, I'm sure you remember them. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm really, really delighted to have you here and excited to hear what you're going to share with us tonight, Vicki.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Derek, thank you for the lovely introduction. It's really great to see Libby and Dan here from the old days. It's super. The first thing I'm going to read is from one of the chapters in my book. It is coming sooner or later. And the protagonist in this one is very young. She's only about 5 years old. Oh, I didn't mean to see it. I just wanted to go back to the beach where the pretty rocks were. Sam and I had run into his friend Mike, and now they were goofing around, throwing rocks at the blue glass insulators near the top of the telephone poles. I turned around and ran back to the corner onto Shelter Point Road. It was quiet here because all the houses except one were summer cabins and no one was living in them right now. The bush grew close to the side of the road and the trees almost met overhead. Their dead needles were soft and thick under my shoes. I was going to take a shortcut through Travis's yard. Just as I started into the driveway, I heard a man's voice shouting. I stepped into the bush and crept along until I could see who it was. In front of the new woodshed, surrounded by bits of firewood and pieces of 2x4, a large, angry man was waving his arms around and shouting at Crazy Eddie. Eddie was screaming like a little kid with his hands up to his face. The man began to hit him with both his fists and shout even louder. Eddie screamed and staggered backward. I was so scared I didn't know what to do, so I crouched down lower in the bush, watching between the leaves. The angry man picked up a piece of 2x4 and swung it like a baseball bat into Eddie's head. There was a hollow smacking sound and he fell backward onto the ground. The man dropped the piece of wood. He knelt over Eddie, still shouting, and hit him again and again with his fists. Then he stood up and backed away. His hands and shirt were covered with blood. It was really quiet. Not even any birds. I was scared to move in case the man heard me. So I kept very, very still and breathed without making a sound. The man walked around. He ran his fingers through his hair and stared at the bush. I knew he couldn't see me, but he looked right at me, right into my eyes. Then he walked back to Eddie and grabbed him under his arms. Eddie's head rolled forward, but all I could see was blood as the man started to drag him away. He dragged Eddie across the yard until they disappeared behind the cabin. I wanted to run away, but I was afraid the man would come back and see me. So I waited, like Sam and I waited when we were watching a wild animal, without moving, without making a sound. In a few moments, the man came back and walked over to the well. He grabbed the pump handle and pumped it until water gushed out. Then he took off his shirt and washed his face and hands and arms. When he was done, he washed his shirt too. He wrung it out with his big hands, shook it out, wrung it out again before he walked away, carrying his shirt in one hand, the other hand in his pocket. As soon as he got close to me, he glanced at the bushes and looked right at me. I could feel his dark, red-rimmed eyes staring into me. He knew I had been watching. One day, he would come and do the same thing to me. Then he walked up the driveway onto the road. I didn't know what to do. If I tried to leave, the man might see me on the road. I counted to 100 in my head before I stood up. I wanted to go see what he had done with Eddie, but I was afraid. What if he woke up and started to chase me? I was scared of Crazy Eddie. He was big, bigger than his grandparents who looked after him. He shouted when nobody was there and waved his hands around. Once he jumped out of the bush when we were walking by. He made strange sounds and talked like a little kid, even though my mother said he was 23. I just wanted to see what had happened to him. Then I would run and find Sam. I stepped out of the bush and walked across the yard. Just like our house, the cabin sat close to the edge of a high bank. I walked to the edge and looked down. Eddie was lying on his stomach on the pebbles. his hands up close to his head, which was turned sideways. The wind was moving his blonde hair around. He looked like a big baby sleeping, except for the blood. It was everywhere, on his arms, his shirt, the side of his head, even on the rocks. He just lay there on the beach all by himself, not moving, with the tide coming in. I turned and ran, needing to get as far away from Eddie as I could. When I got to the road, I checked for the angry man, but there was no sign of him. I could hear Sam calling me. He'd be mad at me for running away. I ran all the way back to the corner. Sam arrived at the same time with Patty trotting ahead. Guess what happened? What? A big angry man hit Crazy Eddie really hard and threw him onto the beach. Sam looked at me as if I was stupid. That is so dumb. Mom told you to stop making up stories. I grabbed hold of his sleeve. I'll show you. I'm not making it up. I never thought he wouldn't believe me. He pulled his arm away. You make up stories all the time. He threw a stick and Patty chased after it. I do not. What about the mermaid you saw at Shelter Point? I did. I saw her. You did not. You just made it up so Mom and I would go for a walk with you. I didn't say anything. It was true. And you said robbers took your shoes. Well, somebody did, because when I came back, they were gone. You left them and the tide came in. That was true as well. I just didn't want to not be allowed on the beach anymore. Lying is a bad habit. Pretty soon you won't know what's true and what isn't. I know what's true. You better not tell Mom what you told me. She won't let you go anywhere. He threw the stick again and Patty went charging after it. But it's true. I hung my head and kicked rocks all the way home. I didn't tell my mother what I had seen because I knew she wouldn't believe me. We were just sitting down to supper when someone climbed the steps and knocked on the door. Sam got up to see who it was. After a minute, he came back in and stood by the table. That was Mr. Mackay. Crazy Eddie's gone missing and everyone's looking for him. Sit down and finish your supper, said my father. We'll go after we've eaten. It's going to be dark soon, said Sam. Doesn't matter. Finish your supper. Sam sat down and looked across the table at me. I stared back at him. It was long after dark when Sam and my father returned. I was already in bed and Mom was reading to me. Did you find him? She called. No, said my father from the doorway. No sign of him. After she kissed me goodnight and left, Sam came in and sat on the edge of my bed. Did you say you saw Eddie this afternoon? Nope. I already made up my mind. Everybody thought I made up stories, so I wasn't going to say anything. Come on, this is important. You said you saw him. I was just acting out a story I made up about Crazy Eddie beating up a bad guy and being a hero. After that, everybody liked him and he didn't do crazy things anymore. Sam stood up. You're nuttier than a fruitcake, you know that? When he was gone, I remembered how Eddie was crying and covering his face with his hands. How the angry man hit him so hard and Eddie cried out like a little kid until the man hit him with a 2x4. I imagined Eddie lying on the cold pebbles in the darkness, the wind blowing through his hair. I wondered if he was scared, lying there all alone. Even if I told what happened, no one would believe me, except the big angry man. He would know I was telling the truth. He would come looking for me and throw me down there too. This next one happens a bit later in her life. She's around 10, and it's called The Violin Player. It starts when Sam and I are sitting at the crowded lunch counter in the good bakery in town. We are talking about our father. You know, every time you do something dumb, he blames Mom, says Sam. What do you mean? I suck on my straw and wait for Sam to answer. He is watching a pretty girl at the end of the counter. How does he blame Mom? He turns back to me. If you do something dumb, he blames her and tells her that she isn't being a good mother, he says. I put my empty glass down on the counter. I don't know what to say, so I don't say anything. Inside, my heart goes cold. I hate my father so much. My mother is kind and cheerful and helps us all the time. Years ago, she used to sing in a theater group who put on plays and musical performances. Now she sings while she's cleaning up the mess my father makes with the ashes from his pipe and cigar. When she is doing the wash or baking something good for us to eat, she sounds like Doris Day on the radio. Why would anyone blame her for anything? Does my father yell at her like he yells at Sam and me? I have no idea what happens when I'm not there. I think about it for the rest of the day and decide that from this moment on, I will not do anything stupid that my mother can get blamed for. I will be careful about where I go, how I behave, and I won't say anything at the dinner table without thinking about it first. I will protect her by being the perfect kid. Late Sunday afternoon, Sam and I are sitting on the back steps waiting for our mother to call us for dinner. I know she is mashing potatoes because I hear her drain them in the sink. Our father is making gravy in the roasting pan. I can hear the fork going round and round as he smooths out all the lumps. Sam is reading a comic and I am trying to read it over his shoulder. He shoves me away and I fall off the step. Pretending to be angry, I stand at the bottom of the steps, hands on my hips, and yell up at him, "Listen, Buster, don't push me around or I'll come up there and plow you one." The screen door opens with such force it smacks against the wall. My father is standing behind Sam with a fork in his hand and a huge scowl on his face. He points the fork at me. "Where did you learn to talk like that? Don't you ever let me hear you use language like that again." I drop my hands and look down at Sam's feet. "Sorry." "For goodness sake, you sound like a damn ditch digger." He goes back into the kitchen, the screen door slapping hard behind him. I don't know what to say or do. I didn't see it coming. So much for being the perfect kid. Now my mother will get blamed for what I said. Sam raises his eyebrows and shrugs. I go and sit beside him and he moves his comic so I can see. I look at the words, but all I can think about is, what did I say? My father used those same words only yesterday when he was telling my mother about Herbie Jones, who was threatening some door-to-door salesman. "Listen, Buster." My father had started to laugh. "You get back in your car and get out of here before I plant my boot on your backside." And they both laughed. I guess it wasn't funny when I said it. On Saturday evening, my mother says, "I think I'll go down to Haddon's. I haven't seen her for a couple of weeks. Do you want to come?" It was usually pretty boring, but there might be something good to eat. "Okay. You can stop at Mrs. McQuarrie's and give her book back. I'll go on ahead." She is pulling a brush through her hair. "If I get tangled up there, I won't be able to leave. After supper, she gets into the sherry and never stops talking." "Okay." My mother seems quite excited to be going to Haddon's. As we walk up the path to the gate, she calls across to my father, who is watering the garden now that the sun has moved on. "We're going to Haddon's." "Yeah, okay." He keeps dipping the cup into the bucket he is carrying, making sure each plant gets the same amount of water. My mother says it is impossible to grow a garden when you have hardly any water, but my father never stops trying. I know he has packed this bucket full from the small spring in the corner above the beach. McQuarrie's aren't home, so I leave the book on the chair outside the door and hurry away. It is a hot, clear July evening with a soft breeze and bands of shadow on the road from the trees. Sounds carry a long way. I hear a door close somewhere and the scrape of a chair on concrete. As I get closer to Haddon's, there is also another sound. I walk a bit further and stop to listen. A violin. Not from a radio, but a real one. You can tell, no fuzziness, no hissing, just clear music drifting through the trees. Mr. Haddon's younger brother is playing the violin. Years ago, Jock Haddon had been put in prison for refusing to go to war. In prison, he learned to play the violin. After the war, he moved to Canada to join his brother in the coal mines, but he continued to play his violin. He took lessons and became an excellent violinist. Sometimes he played on summer evenings, sitting on the doorstep of his little cabin at the edge of the forest, across the big field from his brother's house. People walking by would lean on the fence to listen. Others pulled their cars over and sat with the windows down. When I get to Haddon's, where the trees give way to open fields, the music is louder. A robin on a fence post looks as if he is singing along, his beak open, throat pulsing as he tries to outsing the violin. Even Jerry and Sadie, the two horses, are standing in the field, staring in the direction of the music, which is coming up from the cabins down by the water. I walk down the driveway past the tractor shed, the orchard, and the chicken run, the big gray barn on the left with hay dangling from the open door of the hayloft. I can smell it as I walk past, fresh and sweet on the evening air. When I get close, I can see Mr. and Mrs. Haddon, Jock Haddon, my mother, and two people I've never seen before, gathered around a table in an open space between one of the cabins and the boathouse. On the table, there is a teapot and cups and a platter piled high with cookies and coconut squares. Away from the others, my father is standing against the cabin wall in the shadows, a mug of tea in his hand. I stop because it is the end of the song and the last note vibrates and hangs in the air like the most beautiful bird song. Everyone claps and I'm about to step into sight when Jock Haddon turns to my mother and begins to play again. It is a Scottish folk song. You can tell by the old-fashioned words about missing your home and your family when you're far away. Jock and my mother perform the song as if they have been doing it for years, sitting on the edge of an old wooden chair with his left leg bent and right foot tapping, the sleeves of his blue shirt rolled to expose his strong tanned arms. Jock Haddon reminds me of a magician in baggy trousers. With his twinkling blue eyes, dark hair, and wide smile, he casts a spell over everyone who listens to his violin. Beside him, my mother stands with her hands resting on the back of an old wooden chair with a new coat of turquoise paint. She is wearing her favorite yellow dress that shows off her thick dark hair that she has pinned off her face with one of my gold barrettes. The violin grows louder and her voice grows louder with it. I glance over at my father. His head is tilted to one side. His face is soft and young looking, his mouth slightly open, and he is watching my mother as if he is under a magic spell. Right then, I know for certain that my father loves my mother. He looks so different from the man I see every day that I can't stop staring at him. Is this my real father, the one I am supposed to have, the one that isn't angry all the time? I think he is the handsomest, kindest looking man I have ever seen. He catches sight of me and reaches toward me. I walk over to him and he puts his arm around my shoulder. I put my arm around his waist. Without saying anything, we stand in the shadows together, wrapped in the magic of the violin player and my mother's voice. I know it won't last, that he will go back to being the angry man we live with every day. But right now, at this moment, it is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful, Vicki. Please don't run away. I want to just take a few moments for some question and answers. If people have some questions they want to pass along, if you're out there in Zoom land, you can just unmute and holler, or if you're here at Char's, just stand up and shout, and I'll repeat them. I had goosebumps by the end of that. You know, that's what I love about Vicki's writing is the characters are so complex, and we get to see them in such sometimes diametrically opposed detail that they're so real, because that's the human condition, isn't it? Yeah. They're no just pure ass saints or sinners in your writing. It's you know, it's real human beings, and that was beautiful. And I can't wait for your novel to come out, because you know, the little girl, the narrator is so well drawn, but the side characters, and especially the father, is so intricately drawn and gently through the story. It never feels like it's forced. It just emerges as the story goes on in each chapter with another little incident, another scene or two, and you just see another facet of his character. It's wonderful. Anyone? We've got
Yeah, can I say something? You're right. The writing just makes me want to give up, but your reading actually is just it's entrancing. I like reading, but it's all show. But when I listen to that, I think this is a real person telling me a story, and it's entrancing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, David. But don't give up, please. we like your stories too much. Victoria, you've got a
All I
question.
wanted to say is I agree with Derek in every word, and I enjoyed it so much. It was just absolutely wonderful writing. And those characters, yeah, I was right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I agree. And I find it, even if I haven't experienced the exact same stories, it still brings me right back to my childhood. Just even the way kids say things to each other, and you capture the tone and the intonation of which they say it, it just brings me right back.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering how many of your stories are inspired by your own personal experiences as a child?
A little bit from my childhood, but at this point in my life, I don't remember much back there. But I was a teacher for 30 years, and there's a lot of my students, and they're mixed up all together or whatever, not just one person I have in mind, but a composite of different things they have done and different ways they behave. So it's a combination of all of them. But but it is amazing when you start to write the things that come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And growing up on Gabriola, right? I mean, that I don't know, the settings and the ethos, because this is set on that island again, is so palpable and real because of that experience, I'm sure. But yeah, but otherwise it's a conglomeration, right?
Yeah, well, back in those days, everything was different over there. It was a very different place. So yeah, it's fun to write. And thank you so much, Karl, for phoning me, or Derek for phoning, because I was getting to the point where I was not going to write anymore. I thought, no, really. I thought I've been sweating over this stupid book for so long. You would not believe how many times I killed that kid.
That could be a sequel, probably. So
That's right, Bill. Liv. Yeah.
Although that does, if I could just make a point, that does bring up the whole question of writers and holding the life of their characters in their hands, and they can do anything they want with them, really. So it's good. A good reason to keep writing. It's more control than you have elsewhere.
That's right. Absolutely. It's power. No. Well, I think it was the universe conspiring to make sure you don't stop writing, Vicki, because
believe that.
Yeah.
And you phoned, and I didn't even talk to you at first because Steve got the phone, but it clicked something in my head. I thought, oh, I've got to keep going.
Yeah, good on you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sharon. All right. We're just going to launch overseas now, and Lesli Omohundro-Bronczkowski is going to share some work with us. Good evening, Lesli. How are you this evening?
Hi, I'm doing fine. I'm a bit tired.
Yeah, this morning, I should say, for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but it's
What are you
okay.
going to read for us tonight? Some poetry or some prose?
This is prose, but it's a really short story. It's sort of like was helping me to. I was really sick last year. I had meningitis, and this was sort of a story which sort of talked about how I felt as I recovered. Okay. She had been dozing for a while on the porch, listening to the rain pounding against the roof. They had said a storm was coming, but she hadn't thought that it would have this intensity. You could hear the wind howling through the trees out back, the branches relenting to its power and falling onto the street. Hans would be up early, she knew, dragging them to a pile to take to the Easter fire in spring. Years ago, she would have been out there too, once the kids were in bed, actually watching it all happen before her eyes. But that was then. Now it was only in spirit that she threw off the blanket and walked barefoot and naked under her nightgown and let the cold water soak her hair and her skin the way it was soaking the earth. Back then she couldn't get enough of the rain. Now her hair, which had been down her back, barely reached her shoulders, and her breasts sagged as though waterlogged. She shivered. "You're still here?" She opened her eyes. In the last month, she had noticed that Hans often didn't hear her when she spoke, and yet he always seemed to know where she was. She hadn't heard him coming. "I like being outside. I like listening to the rain." He walked to the porch window and wiped the moisture on the window pane with his hand. "We're safe here." She smiled. She wished she could take his hand and give it a little squeeze to show him that she believed him, to show that she felt safe with him. He always tried so hard, but it wasn't his fault. Sometimes the memories were stronger than he was. She hadn't meant to bring them with her. It surprised her most of all when they moved into their new home with all of their stuff, and there they were buried in one of the boxes. She frowned. This was one of the boxes that was supposed to have been burned. She closed her eyes again. The rain was relentless. "Maybe," she said, "this is the Ark." "Huh?" "Noah's Ark. When we wake up, the rain will have stopped, and the sun will be shining, and it'll just be us." Hans grunted, which was his way of saying that he had absolutely no clue what she was talking about.
Beautiful.
So that was it.
Very romantic. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, transporting. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leslie. Beautiful. All right, we're going to roll along. We're coming back to in-house here, and Bob, aka Joe Lunchbucket, is going to take the podium away here and share with us his insights for this evening, so we can all leave wiser men and women.
Yeah. Good. In the 60s, Port Alberni Student High School parking lot had newer cars than the teachers because kids had weekend jobs in mills. Snow was black, bars were full, and sold fly ash drinks. W.A.C. Bennett labeled our pulp pollution as the breath of prosperity. When pulp workers were on strike for over a month, herring that haven't been seen for decades returned to Port Alberni Inlet, proving that nature can regenerate. But the question is, can we? Pulp mill closes, property taxes rise. Alas, will we have the money to buy toilet paper to wipe our... Will we house the homeless or see the brave -40 nature in the raw? We're our brother's keeper, but could we keep addicts high and free safe drug supply? Must our youth seek work in Alberta and retired Albertans flock here, raising real estate prices? Will kids get opportunity to buy million-dollar homes here, or are we doomed to be a retiree community? We're not a Disneyland. How do we draw in tourism? Nostradamus marketed disaster prophecies. Bigfoot tracks and crop circles materialized in other parts of our globe. What are Port Alberni's prospects? Will miracles and UFOs be a hard sell, or is an even a bigger leap of faith required to swallow heaven and hell, from whence none have returned, and their experience they can't retell? Could we instill a bit of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds drama, find a faith healer, and build a shrine or ET landing site on Highway Summit? Sailors left sheep and pigs on remote islands and returned years later to harvest them. Could ET2 have seeded us and their viruses like pox, TB, and VD that explorers gifted Aboriginals? Could empty churches like some universities serve as believer-atheist debate sites? Will 21st century first see Christ's second coming to collect rent after 2,000 years? Or ET? Should we build it and they will come flooding in like Vietnam draft dodgers and put Port Alberni on the map? Or do we erect walls to stop desperate U.S. Southerners fleeing tornadoes, floods, and bank collapse? Does U.S. media disinformation label UFOs a hoax because they're covertly beneficiary of their technology? Will we fall the last tree endangering power lines, or can we bury hydro lines underground just like pipelines? Is global warming accelerating our problems and has taken on a religious role? Will we agree on UN global insurance policy and make saving the environment our goal? Will might always be right, or will we see a UN New World Order protect even the weakest nation? Will this be the mark of our civilization?
Woo. I have a feeling those questions keep you up at night, Bob. Is that, or do they just entertain you? No, no. But that, Port Alberni, I mean, for those who don't know the town well enough, I mean, we have a history of trying to figure out what can we do to bring more people here and, save the town as the forest industry declined. So, yeah, I think that ET thing, yeah, we could become the point of first contact. Could do it. Thanks for sharing, Bob.
Thank you, Joe. I think, Joe's, they're not questions for answers. They're all rhetorical questions. So they're like pricks of conscience.
Yes.
So everything Joe Lunchbucket asks is a rhetorical question, and you know the answer. It may not make you happy, but that's it. That's it
for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's a gentler way of pointing things out for sure. All right, we're going to go over to Denman Island now, and Peter Paul Van Camp, fresh back from his tour to Port Alberni, is going to share some verse with us this evening. I'm guessing
You guessed correctly, Derek.
Something new. What's it going to be tonight?
I have three new. Well, here's the thing. You may recall last month I was talking about the fact that I would be turning 70 in May, and I went ahead and did that. I thought, why not? And I'd begun writing poems. I'd put myself on a bicycle, and I'd write a series of poems, all with the same title. I don't know how many of them I'll write, maybe 50 or 60 or 70. They're all going to be called Peter Paul Van Camp on a Bicycle at 70. So I've written 14 of them so far. And last month I read number 1 and number 8, and now I'm going to read number 5, 12, and 14 for you. And then I'll close off with something old. So this one, these are all Denman Island poems. And this one is not a criticism of our local ways. It's merely an observation. I grew up in a small town myself, so I know how it is. So this is Peter Paul Van Camp on a Bicycle at 70, number 5. And where's that poet think he's riding on a Sunday? To church? Why would he? It's only a 3-minute walk. Same goes for the store, the exact same distance. The library's closed, nothing's on at the hall today, the bakery's shut. What's he up to, this poet? Well, it's none of my beeswax. Doesn't mean I'm not going to find out, though. It's just the way it is here. Here's number 12. And this one, I imagine, I'd like you to imagine yourself seated in a chair, hanging high up in the cosmos and looking down on me as I ride my bicycle. This is Peter Paul Van Camp on a bicycle at 70, number 12. It has been pointed out to me at least 3 times now that I would get more of these bike pieces written if I hauled my 2-wheeler out of the crawl space, pumped up the tires, and rode it occasionally. Yes, but help me understand. If I am riding westward at a reasonable rate, while Earth is wheeling toward the east at her extraordinary pace, under certain rules of reckoning, as science has explained, I would have to pedal at 1,000 miles an hour just to stay put in space. Now, for a man of my age, given this complication, just how helpful is a bicycle if I wish to catch the sunset? I hope I've got the science right on that. Now here's Peter Paul Van Camp on a bicycle at 70, number 14. This is the newest of the series. I expect that I've led an unusual life. I used to suppose that I did it myself, and it happened on purpose. Lately I wonder, did I have any say? Chances are it's been an elaborate accident, prepared on the sly for a person who made no particular plans, but just followed the roads, as I'm doing right now. Am I on time or well behind schedule? I know I'm not early. In my heart, without knowing if I meant to be anywhere, I find myself luckily here. And while my luck holds, and claiming no authorship, I hang on to the handlebars and go a bit slower. For whatever this is, and it can't last forever, if I love and am loved, no one could ask for more. Oh, my elbow is sore. It's sore all the time, but I'll take it. I've earned it. No idea how it happened. But it's mine. It's all mine. Thanks, and I'll leave you with this one. It's a lovely pastoral scene that's been in my repertoire for many years now. They strolled down the lane together. The sky was studded with stars. They reached the gate in silence, and he lifted down the bars. Well, she neither smiled nor thanked him, because she knew not how, for he was just a farmer's boy, and she a Holstein cow. All righty then. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
I assure you the pleasure is all ours, Peter Paul.
Thank you. Thank you.
I could see Bill was nodding, especially around that first poem.
I expect it would be.
Yeah. I think you nailed it, the community there. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any small community. Absolutely. All right. We're going to move along, and we're going to Qualicum Beach now, and Mark Wonneck is going to share some music with us. And did you do a...
All right then.
There we are.
I'm there. Yes. Now, is that going to be okay?
Char is looking at her phone. Just let me see. Sounds good to her, she said. out in the house here. Good. Too loud? Bring it down a little bit.
I should bring it down?
Uh,
Or is that you're going to do that?
Char's asking for a minute. We'll give her a minute. All good? All good.
We're all ready?
Okay, Steve. All right, we're good. We're good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a flower in the garden, climbing to the sun, in a long line of circumstance to do what must be done, shining for a moment, that's just its way. Then the colors soften and fade away. Life takes hold everywhere in the darkness and light, among the twists and turns. Some go left, some go right, to each its own, I suppose. Whatever grows, grows, and so it goes. She was in the library with a faraway look, a girl with a notepad surrounded by her books. I sat across the table, nothing else to do, in that land of imagination where everything is new. She said these stories are like butterflies pinned to the page. They live in the possibility of whimsy set ablaze. Oh, I love it here, see their wings catch the air, and so it goes. I saw him at the laundromat. I was sorting through the past, starting out black and white, blend into gray and overcast. I don't go in there often, who knows why today. Funny thing about habits, when they start, who's to say? He said these machines are like waves pushing at the shore. They seem like just one thing and nothing more. But you can never do just one thing, always, always rippling, and so it goes. Now the sunshine warms my back as I find my way through this overgrown pathway, both familiar and new. Everyone has their own story, I suppose I do too. Maybe someday mine will lead to you. Love takes hold everywhere in the darkness and light, among the twists and turns. Some go left, some go right, to each its own, I know. whatever grows, grows. And so it goes.
Beautiful.
I just wanted to say I was astounded that Vicki, I don't know Vicki, but that she was even thinking about giving up writing. That just makes no sense to me at all. You should not give up writing. I know everybody agrees on that, but my goodness, when I heard that, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be like you playing the guitar or something, or songs. I mean, just ridiculous. Absolutely
ridiculous. Yeah. Anyways, that's what I was thinking. I meant to say that first, but then I was with the sound and everything. I got carried away.
That was one. Lovely, Mark. Thank you so much. That was like a little tapestry of multiple short stories that kind of wove together and fit together beautifully. I love that. Thank you.
Super. Thank you.
All right, we're staying on the east side of the island here and going offshore a little bit, back to Denman Island. Bill Engelson, so good to have you back reading again, Bill. We always love to have you here. I just love the sensory details in your writing and just the ethos you create. So glad to have you here. You're going to share some fiction with us tonight or nonfiction? Oh, you're muted. Oh. Hit your mute button there. Your unmute button. There we go.
Okay. You can hear me? You can hear me.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, it's called A Tumbling of Tender Rain. And it was a story that I had published. I won a prize or contest on an online international magazine, CQ International. I don't know if it's still around. This is like a few years ago. And you have to picture and there was a prompt. And the prompt was a rainy urban setting, a yellow taxi cab, a man and a woman embracing under a red umbrella. So that's the image you have to have. And I will go from the present to the past, to the present to the past, and as I read the story. Okay, here we go. A Tumbling of Tender Rain. Now, I had waited for the longest time, longer than I'd ever waited before, for anyone, for anything. I thought I was being very big-hearted, giving her enough rope with which to hang herself. That's harsh, I know. Love isn't a garrote. When one is in love, the body shivers, shines, seeks a deep pool of warmth to immerse itself in, to drift more completely into a tributary of trust. I didn't really know what that might mean, giving someone enough rope to show up and be themselves. And really, there is no rope. There is only the slenderest of threads, a fragile cord, binding it all together for as long as it holds. I had waited for the longest time, as if in a blind, waiting with supreme patience, camera at the ready, longing for that perfect moment, aching for an image so powerful, so puissant, as the French say, that the significance of the shot would forever burn in their eyes. Then, have you ever been to High Falls, she had asked. No, I had answered. Have you ever heard of it? She pursued my regrettable limitations. No, I admitted, like a Samaritan who had failed to render timely assistance. I'm on my way there now, she advised. To do what? I wonder and say. She smiles like a child on a swing. I sing, semi-professional. So you have a job in this place, High Falls. A gig, right? No, not there. But you're right, I have a gig. I'll be appearing at a little jazz club in New York in 2 days, the Purple Potato. You know it? No, I'm afraid I don't. In 2 days, I would like to hear you sing. I'll be back in the Big Apple later this week. I say, I'll check you out. And then, I mean, you're singing. I'm pretty good, she beams. So, I'm still a little curious. This place, High Falls, what's there? Ah, well, Helen Morgan, ring a bell? I am at a loss, I admit. Who is she? Was. Torch singer back in the 20s, Broadway, Hollywood. She was big, tragic, but big. So High Falls was her hometown, I ask. No, she lived there for a time, had a bit of a farm, a place to hide away, to dry out. A drunk then, I am quick to be judgmental. Unkind to, I guess, I am put in my place. No, she is firm, tragic and human, a little weak. So what about her, about this Helen Morgan? People tell me I channel her, she says. Her singing, I seek clarification? Yes, that. Not her voice. She had a higher tone. They did then have a higher pitch, and recording music back then was not as well done as it can be now. When they compare her to me, it's more, I think, our similar styles. But not, no, I hardly drink at all. And then my flight is called. The moment is filed away. Now, there is still daylight. A yellow ochre tinge splashes on the street. The rain endures without interruption. It is surely another drizzly New York day. Wet trash clinging to the fissured street has a noxious bouquet almost all its own. It is, ironically, a smell not dissimilar to the toxic reeks I have inhaled in many other places in the world. Zones of sorrow and carnage where my camera and I have chronicled almost every imaginable atrocity. The sickening stench is a devil's mix of rotting flesh, poisonous food, smoked air, fouled water, and sewage ever rising from a city's bowels. Perhaps my judgment is suspect. I wonder about that as I prowl in the shadows, seeking the best angle, a sentry without assigned duty, a custodian of my own peccadillos. I can't believe I skipped my flight. I'm usually reliable, but Kabul will not answer my delay. Notice my delay. Today, tomorrow, there is always a later plane. Wars are open 24/7. There is no shortage. And sometimes, in this age of 24-hour news, it may be that we have seen enough images of war. This is heresy I speak, but I know I am superfluous. I wait in the shadows, poised. Then, 3 days later, I was at loose ends. I grabbed a cab and asked the cabbie if he knew of a place called the Purple Potato. He didn't, but his dispatcher did. I was dropped off in less than 20 minutes. As I walked down the steps into the club, a voice, her voice, echoed out into the stairwell. It was huskier than I imagined. Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when he comes my way... Of course, I fell in love. All the ingredients were there, and then some. I had few expectations. Our one exchange had been brief. I lived for the next assignment. I briefly wondered what she lived for. Her music, of course. I found a table against the rear wall. I ordered my drink, and I waited, and I listened. After her set, she found me. You are an adventurous man, she said, sipping a cocktail with a slice of pineapple draped over the lip of the glass. She was dressed more formally than I would have expected, something black approximating a gown. A pleasurable adventure, I assure you. You are good. That one song was a Billie Holiday classic, right? The Man I Love? Yes. The Gershwins wrote it, but many have laid claim to it. It belongs to Billie, though, but not quite. Great song. Did you make it over to that place? High Falls? Yes, I did. Nothing magical happened, no Helen Morgan moments, but I was glad I went. So, will you be here long? I have a few days, and then I'm away. Then let's make the most of our brief time, she said. Now, brief. It was brief. Cold, sharp, strident. But I could not disengage. The images sear your soul. Your brain finds no relief. Fragments of flesh flap from the walls like old flypaper, the images you cannot escape. And then, unexpectedly, you stumble upon a salvation of a sort. I see what I'm doing. When you cannot let go of a thing you know will destroy you, you are swallowed up by its contaminants. I play, she said. I like to play, but life is serious. The day is disappearing in the yellow rain. I am disappearing into the yellow rain. The images will fade. I have other interests, she said. You need them to make it in this business, she added. I am no novice. This is not unexpected. This time I cannot let go. Then, she knew I was leaving on my latest assignment. I said I would say goodbye at the club. She said, now, here will do. I went anyways. It did not go well. You don't listen, do you? She scorned. I guess not, I said. Look, baby, it was fun. That's all it was, fun. This isn't fun. This is sad. What is the expression, your tail between your legs? It captures the humiliation and the discomfort quite well. He exits now. He exits the cab. He appears younger than I expected, taller, clutching her umbrella, red, bright, leaning to orange. Her arms encircle his neck, pull him into her. His fingers meet at her backbone and pull her towards him. Shot captured. Again, every angle I can muster. Preserve the image, tell the tale. Be the correspondent, detached yet intimate, omniscient, inside the skin of the story, but beyond its silken reach, forever beyond her reach. The end.
Bravo. No wonder that one won, Bill. Lovely. And an inventive way of telling the story too, and playing with the timeline that way. And yeah, exquisite. That was super. Thank you. Thank you.
Be careful with your assignments, eh? There's a moral tale there. Be picky with your assignments.
All right. All right, we're going to come back in-house now here, and Victoria Roscoe-Roumanis is going to read, I'm guessing, some poetry, but it could be some prose, you never know. And come on up to the podium. What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right. I wished you happy birthday online, didn't I?
You did, I think. Yes, you did.
Yes.
And so did you. Thank you.
Belated happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Right? Yeah, oh yes, definitely. Never letting go. Right. So hello again, everybody. What wonderful evening it's been. I've just enjoyed everybody's writing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got a couple here. The first one is called Sailing on a Winter's Day. It is the second week of January 2023 when the sailboat glides out into Port Alberni's beautiful harbor. The temperature is mild. No need for winter wraps. In fact, the warmth for this time of the year seems surreal. We are heading down the inlet against the incoming tide. The wind has not awoken yet. Eyes need to keep watch for the dangerously threatening forest of logs that have been washed out into the inlet at high tide. The hum of the motor breaks the silence until the jib sail is set free, only to gather a small amount of air. However, even if the sail has not gathered strong wind power, the engine is cut. Listen to the quiet. Gentle ripples ride through the water. On the far shore, we hear the waterfall, hidden somewhere behind the trees. A whistle sounds at a nearby mill. It must be shift change. The sun is warming. We are alone, nobody else venturing out into the canal on this winter's day. Gliding slowly, we breathe in a mix of ocean and canal air. Our dog, Nikita, with her nose held high, is exhilarated by the many smells her acute senses observe. An eagle flies high overhead. Such wonderful peace. A good time for meditation as we soak in the beauty. Warmed by the sun, one could stay here forever. The sun has a different idea as it decides to sink behind the mountains and rob us of its comfortable temperature. The air chills quickly and a decision is made to head back to harbor for hot tea and cookies. taking with us our memory of a winter's sail in January. Thank you. And the last one is Mighty Dandelions. Those are my favorite things. Mighty dandelions. Through raging torrents, the creek bulldozed its way over the falls and out through the dike towards the river, carrying logs and branches on its back. Amazingly, your seed conquered the battle, and there you grow amongst the rocks, all alone. You hold my gaze as I admire your beautiful fresh green leaves and 3 stunningly yellow blooms, such a rich gold shining like the sun. Your blooms will quickly turn to seeds, and their distribution will be blown in the wind to seed for next year. Will you be here then, or will the creek carry you to a new resting bed? I will look for you, mighty one, and perhaps we will converse again, and you will trigger inspiring words to fill my page. And yes, I did talk to the dandelion. I do a lot of talking to little things that don't talk back, but
You never
very
know.
enjoyable.
But you know they're listening.
That's right.
And they will go on forever. I'm sure dandelions would survive nuclear winter, no problem.
I think it
they are
might be back.
survivors.
I think it might be back.
Thank you for those poems, Victoria. Beautiful. All right, Stephen Novick is going to take the stage here at Char's Landing and share a little motion poetry with us, a little spoken word.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
I think it's fine, actually, Char. Yahoo! Okay, so here I am again at Electric Mermaid. Yay! And so, as usual, I start with a short piece. This one's entitled May 17th, 2023, Challenge Poem Number 1. On a night not so nondescript and bleary, I meet up with friends who are far from dreary. They make me laugh, think, and maybe cry, since our shared sense of humor is quite wry. We catch up with each other's news, argue a bit with each other's views. Well, mansplaining certainly isn't priestly. And by the way, who gets a kick from being so beastly? That's what happens when your friend Winter comes back from Vancouver and you sit around with the rest of your writer friends. We write poems to each other. Now, my next poem, I was digging through my vault and I figured this one would be a little kind of cutesy fun one to do, entitled Vitamin C. I am me, strong and free, but I need to be down by the coast getting my vitamin C. Won't you see with me? I let the waves bring forth a glee as I take in my vitamin C. Right now, I don't wish to flee from these here rocks. OMG, give me my vitamin C. I'm just fine and dandy, walking on the shore that's sandy, feeling the warm sun on a breeze. I take a little inspiration from my visitation among the vegetation and trees. But oh, please, don't you ever forget the sensation of your toes wet when you take a dip in my vitamin C. Won't you see with me? Some drink a little coffee, some drink tea, but I come here to drink in all that I can from my vitamin C. Ho, 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 and hee, hee, hee. I'm off to go get another dose of vitamin C. And as I was digging around, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try this poem. And it's only so long. But then I thought, well, let's try something a little different with this poem. You ever heard of those palindromic poems? This is an attempt at a palindromic poem entitled the all-important end credit music. God, gotta get it right. Can't be reckless in this decision. The last element to make a first impression. Land the approval of the audience. The last chance of sensual connection through sonority. Scroll through your playlists for the exit music. A final salute, a nod. Cap it all off. Just right. Do you prefer something up-tempo, something rousing and stirring, keep the brain a-whirring just that little bit more as your no longer rapt audience gets up and heads for the door? As your no longer rapt audience, just that little bit more, keep the brain a-whirring and stirring, something rousing, something up-tempo. Do you prefer just right? Capital law, a nod. A final salute for the exit music. Scroll through your playlists, through sonority, that last chance of sensual connection of the audience. Land the approval to make a first impression. The last element. Can't be reckless in this decision. God, gotta get it right. I'm staying here for a second.
You're staying here for a second, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for those, Stephen. That was wonderful.
Thank you,
And,
Derek.
yeah, the palindrome, that's for those who don't know, right? You know, it's sort of, you read it one way and then it goes backwards down to where it started. I mean, you probably picked that up when you heard it, but just in case you didn't, I'll mansplain it to you. Well done, man. That's not easy to do. That was super. Thanks.
Awesome.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, we're going back into the Zoom land now, and David Kipling is going to share something with us, taking the screen over, and Gibson's Landing, the master of the 5-minute story.
I apologize for the constant messing. My computer doesn't have a camera, so I have a separate camera, which I balance on a little piece of wood, and every time it's hopeless. Anyway. I wanted to say, I think Jennifer may have left the building, but as usual, I spent the weekend at the drag races. But something Jennifer said kind of spurred me to remember that there's prejudice out there, and we sometimes set that as a standard. Now, it's difficult to think of a more popularly thought of macho, inhospitable world than motorcycling, and particularly motorcycle racing. And what I remember is that in the sort of 60 years of elite Grand Prix, like cars and motorcycles, in the last 60 years, only one person from Canada has ever won a motorcycle Grand Prix. And that person was Mike Duff, who was very popular. In 1982, it became Michelle Duff, and has remained a very popular journalist and author, a spokesperson and trainer. And any time that Michelle Duff's name is mentioned today on the internet, there are scores and scores of positive, friendly remarks saying, hooray for Michelle Duff. So, Jennifer referred to the difficulties that a transgender person meets. And I guess also you have to look for the realities which are out there, which can be positive. So there we are. That's just a way of advertising drag racing here on the coast, which is where I volunteer 2 or 3 times a year. Okay. Okay, here's a little story. This won't upset too many children. I excused myself and walked out of the yard into fresher air. I had disguised my retching as a coughing fit, and I squelched out of the concrete yard into fresher air, not sure whether it was because of the 2 carcasses we'd brought in or the stench of the boiling bones in the vat in the far corner. Only a first year into my first serious job, I'd been laid off from my lab technician position at Dunlop Tires, when they became a wholesale distributor for Yokohama. I treated myself to a summer off, staying not back at home, family row there, my hair and stuff, not with Mum and Dad, but with my Uncle Stan and Aunt Becky, who ran a truck and trailer outfit in a farming village. They had contracts with farms and the quarry and the council, and for cash in hand with anyone who needed big stuff moved. A local farmer, old man Grimshaw, had phoned Uncle that morning, which is what had eventually brought me here to the knacker's yard. When Grimshaw had phoned, he'd been as curt as any countryman. "Got two for the knacker's yard, can you take 'em?" I'd ridden over to the farm with Spike Metcalf, in one of Uncle's 5-tonners, a Bedford TK tipper, and in a fenced enclosure saw Grimshaw prod the unsteady and drooling cow with his hazel stick. "She's a goner, and the calf in her." I put on my best sympathetic face. Grimshaw flicked a hand. "If you have livestock, you'll have dead stock." Spike reached behind the seat and brought out a wooden case, and from it a heavy nickel-plated cylinder. "Seen one of these, have you?" Spike grinned. I doubted that it was an industrial tire pump, which it had almost resembled, so I let him enjoy telling me it was a humane killer. "Another one for you, but it's down the field," said Grimshaw. The splash of our boots and the whisper of wind through the ragged hedge joined the bleating of ewes and lambs in the yard. While Spike was ushering the sick cow into a narrow chute to secure its halter and unscrew the cap of that ominous steel cylinder, Grimshaw drove me down the meadow in his Land Rover, saying, "You Stan Baldwin's family then? Watch and learn, young man." He pointed with his shepherd's crook. "There, see?" I peered. Hawthorn hedges, especially old ones, are staked and woven into effective barriers between fields. The ewe lay with its legs folded under it, panting slightly, right under the prickly hawthorn. The few remaining May blossoms were falling. "I thought she'd be under a hedge somewhere," he muttered. "She had to be ill to hide here while the dog was herding them." The sheep was dribbling diarrhea under its tail and mucus from its mouth, and it trembled gently, making no effort to move despite our looming presence. "They always find a shady spot out of sight. I don't know why. Dogs do it too, don't they? Septicemia," he grunted. He shook his head. "No cure. These border Leicester breeds, they stress, too heavy, see, no stamina, catch every disease within a mile." I disentangled the sheep from the prickly branches, pulled it out in the open meadow. We hoisted it together into the back of the Land Rover and drove back up to the farmyard. Spike had already dispatched the cow. We'd heard the bang. He did the same to the sheep as we held it, its head upright. Then he slid a stick deep into its skull and stirred. "Same as the cow, but different position," he said. "Quick and clean." The two bodies lay like full sandbags. Grimshaw scrawled his initials on the papers, and we climbed back into Uncle's truck. "The slaughterhouse won't have these two, see? Sick animals not allowed in the food trade. Only a knacker's yard will take them." The elderly truck shuddered and twitched on every bend in the road, but I decided not to say that the truck needed a knacker's yard too. The knacker's yard we drove the carcasses to, O'Malley rendering, was clumsily painted in white on the black iron gates. The knackers took dead horses and cattle, pigs and sheep, for their flesh, bones, hooves and hide, which they processed or sold on for converting to glue and leather and pet food. Leaving the knacker's yard afterwards, Spike had looked across at me. "Bad stomach, is it?" Spike had that village caution, always tentative around tricky subjects. In these hedged and isolated parishes, a tease or a veiled insult was remembered for generations. So Spikely kindly pretended my stomach was bad, which allowed me to mumble about too much beer last night, which he and I both knew was untrue, but would be an acceptable reason for my retching just now in the yard. Spike knew from Uncle that I'd gone to college and had worked in towns, indoors, in offices. He glanced across discreetly at my hands and thought I might need help understanding this side of life. Spike kept homing pigeons and was locally reckoned a good pigeon breeder. He looked at me like I was a foreign pigeon, maybe a French or a Belgian strain, as though he wasn't sure which way I might flutter if scared. When we got back to Uncle Stan's yard, Spike got out a hose and the steam jet and passed me a big wire brush and a jug of caustic soda. Uncle leaned out of the office window and yelled, "Gloves and aprons, and put that visor on." Spike firmly closed the truck's windows and doors, and we set about disinfecting and scrubbing down the bed of the truck, all the while choking and weeping from the bitter fumes. until Spike spat and said that was good enough and finished off with the hosepipe. He passed me the humane killer to dismantle and clean under the tap, including its sticky captive bolt. Uncle came out with some banknotes for Spike and asked how Spike's granny was doing nowadays. Spike made a face and shook his head, folding the money. He scanned under and around the ticking, dripping truck, and so did Uncle, and so did I. Uncle rallied and cheerily poked my arm. "Learn something today, did you, young man?" And he winked across at Spike. I told him, yes, I learned that some people run 5-ton Bedfords with underinflated tyres. I know, it's kind of on the driver's bum. I looked at Spike with that Stone Age cab and chassis. But Dunlops, I gently kicked the front tyre, not that old Goodyear on the inside left. They overheat and steer badly if they're under 35 pounds. The sticker inside the door panel. Oh, look, right here. It says minimum 45 pounds. At least Uncle and Spike had the good grace to shut up shop early and take me to the pub for a beer and a sandwich.
Beautiful. I just realized where you should get published.
Farming magazine.
Collection of working stories like that. Arsenal Pulp Press would be definitely where to send those, and they should be out because that was beautiful. Beautiful might not be the right word. That was very well done. Do that. Let's talk later. Okay, that was great. Thank you, David. And we're going to go on. We got another in-house reader here. Dan Biggs is going to come and share, I believe, a short story with us. Dan launched his novel here at Char's Landing pre-COVID now, a few years back, and contacted me out of the blue the other day saying he's got some new work going on, and I was really happy to hear that, and he's going to come and share it with us tonight. So Dan Biggs, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's not a short story. I read it over before coming here, and it's a little long, and I didn't want to just read half of it. So I decided to read the first chapter of the novel that I've been working on. It's based on a short story that I wrote in your class years ago. So it's called Maggie Mish. And the first chapter I've called Prescott. Ringed by a crowd of angry men, droplets of mist settled on the nervous provincials, the dampness soaking into their olive drab tunics. They were inspecting 3 high crates. The crates were marked with Japanese characters the officers didn't understand. They suspected the crates held contraband, sake, opium, probably both. Offloaded from the freighter Kinbin Sufu, still at dock. The ship creaked as it grated against the wharf in the falling tide. The crates rested at the end of a long pier, stretched above a rumblestone surf, out towards dark waters, roiled by tide and the afterglow of yesterday's storm. The chief constable, an older, larger man, addressed the crowd. He held a piece of paper in his hand and spoke. The British Columbia Prohibition Act prohibits the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages. The Justice of the Peace, Walter McBride, has issued a warrant that all shipments suspected of containing alcoholic beverages be searched, and if such beverages are found, be seized. Men in the crowd talked amongst themselves in English, Japanese, and Chinook jargon. Murmuring voices vaulted in ambience of fear and confusion. A voice from the crowd spoke up. "Why this boat? Last one not inspected?" Constable George Prescott folded the paper and shoved it into his jacket pocket. One of his constables placed a crowbar into his waiting hand. He was about to pry open one of the crates when a man dressed in dirty coveralls pushed his way through the crowd. "Chief, Chief," the man yelled as he fettered his way. "You have poor timing, Ed. We found something you need to see." "What? Can it wait?" "I best not say here. You should see this straight away." A young constable holding a Winchester rifle interrupted. "We can't leave these crates. If they do, they'll be gone, or what's in them will be gone. And the bosses in Victoria will have our jobs if we don't start enforcing these no drinking laws. Prescott paused, about to tell the young ambitious constable that keeping order was a job, but the terse telegram from Victoria was still in his mind. He knew well from experience that selective enforcement of the law had kept order, but recent events had gotten back to the bosses and Prescott's hands were being forced. It's important, George, Ed insisted. More than this? Ed nodded nervously. Prescott could see fear in his face. Constable Rain slung his rifle onto his shoulder and said, "We need all of us to do this. Look at them. They'll throw us into the chuck." To reassure himself, Prescott looked up at the top boardwalk that overlooked the wharf. Through the pall of mist, he spotted the men he had deputized this morning when the Gibsons B.C rounded the point. Prescott looked over the crowd. "Edward, you sure about this?" Ed nodded vigorously this time. Prescott thought who to send to see what Ed was so nervous about. But in the crowd, he spotted the man who had spoken. He knew as Enzo. "Enzo," Prescott called out, coaxing with his free hand. Enzo stepped forward, a short man with black hair cut straight round above the ears. Prescott noticed a flush of drink on his face. "Jim, my Canada name. Jim," Enzo said. "What do these symbols mean?" Prescott asked him. "From Japan, for men, for our families. You cannot take, we need, many very lonely. Miss home. Is there drink or smoke in there?" Prescott said, tapping the crate with his crowbar. Enzo said nothing, a blank stare, and that was all Prescott needed to know. Prescott pointed towards the end of the dock and drew Enzo's attention to the four-armed men standing on the upper boardwalk. The men on the boardwalk wore plain clothes. Yellow armbands showed they had been deputized. "If there is trouble, those deputies have orders to use their rifles." His eyes locked on Enzo as he spoke. "Tokotusk," Prescott added, talking down his nose. Enzo looked away to the planks of the wharf and barely discernibly nodded. Prescott waved the crowbar toward Rain, who took it. "You're in charge and don't shoot anyone." Turning to Ed, "Show me," he said. The crowd parted as Ed and Prescott hurried down the wharf onto the plank walkway where the weathered wooden shack sat edged on the foreshore, bundled together like duress caskets, smoke wisping from tin stovepipes. Prescott paused before ascending the wooden steps to watch, through wired mesh, a man wielding a rusty cleaver at a flapping white hand, while caged chickens looked on, cawing in chorus. The man spat terse-sounding words Prescott assumed to be curses, but he didn't speak Japanese and didn't care to learn. A woman wearing a red headscarf stepped forward and took hold of the terrified bird. White feathers swirled as the cleaver came down. A squawk, chirps, then the bird was quickly turned and the other tip of its wing was chopped off. The man looked up and said to Prescott, "No tubu, no kakwak." Prescott's mind went back to his youth, and he remembered the flightless swan on the pond at his father's farm. Ed had lurched ahead. Prescott grunted as he quickened his pace. Above, gulls called as they swirled in the air. An hour before, the rain had stopped, but the mist still remained, draped and drifting. Through the mist, Ed and Prescott made their way to the top boardwalk. A miasma of rendered whale blubber, fish offal, and sawdust filled their sinuses. "Everything okay, George?" one of the deputies called out. Prescott pointed down at the wharf. "Keep watch and don't shoot anyone." Over the soaked planks, he passed sturdy timbered homes, offices, buildings, and storefronts. A loud percussive crack of a gunshot slammed through Prescott's ears. He instinctively ducked. He stood, pivoted, and through the shifting mist, Prescott saw the outline of a dark jumbled of figures moving back from the shadowy figure of Constable Rain, levering another round, raising his rifle and firing again. The dark mass of men dispersed with heavy boot falls, ran down the wharf into the rough assemblage of cedar plank shacks and warehouses where they subsisted. Prescott saw the deputies on the boardwalk raising their rifles. "Hold your fire," he yelled. Prescott shook his head and thought Rain impulsive, two races, and thought further about how or what kind of place this is where men would take such risks to drink sake and smoke opium. Ed hadn't stopped, and Prescott quickened his pace to catch up. The gunshots had attracted attention. Faces peered from windows and from doors ajar. Everything is under control. Nothing to worry about. Go back to your business, he told him as he gated up the boardwalk. As his pace quickened, Prescott noticed Ellen Marco and her two boys looking out their large, many-paned windows. When their eyes met, he stopped and she opened her door. What's going on, George? Nothing to worry about, Miss Marco. My men are seizing a shipment of liquor from Japan, and a few of them are not happy about it. Ellen held her hand to her face. The faces of her boys appeared at her waist. Was anybody shot? No, just a warning. Young Mr. Rain is feeling outnumbered, he said, trying to smile. Why are you not down there with them? They found something. As Prescott spoke, he noticed Ed had left the boardwalk and was climbing the hill behind Henry Mish's old house. Ellen looked and also saw Ed climbing the hill. Up there, she said, pointing. It looks like it. Stay inside, Ellen. I'm sure everything will be fine. As he passed Henry Mish's house, Prescott saw how run down it had become in only a few weeks. 2 panes were missing from the window, others cracked, mud caked on the steps, wet clothing hanging under the porch. Maggie always kept it nice, he thought. As he made his way up the narrow path, these saturated with moisture soaked through his pants. He thought of Maggie and how she was on the first day, on the wharf, the rigors of her journey worn on her face, a face partly covered in a knitted wool cap and blonde curls, her body layered in clothes. Despite the circumstances, the hardship of sea travel, the weather, and her destination, she still managed a flat smile when their eyes met. She reminded him of his daughter, and like all the others on the wharf that day, Prescott knew sadly why she was here. He climbed the hill that got steeper with every step, pushing through salal that grew to the height of his chin, spruce saplings that punctured and scraped his bare hands, ducked under wooden wallen trees. He was soon exhausted, soaked through and muddy. This better be something really bad, Ed, he said to himself as he pushed on. Soon he heard Ed call out and found a clearing where Ed stood with another man over the area of disturbed ground. What have you found? Prescott demanded. The other man, known as Freddie, pointed into the disturbed ground. Prescott stepped forward and smelt the stench of fruity, rotting meat. He was overcome by the smell and rummaged in his wet pant pocket for his handkerchief. The ground had been dug out, and in the hollow, partly under a windfall mixed with moss and the detritus of the forest floor, was a body laid face down. Its clothing was the color of the dark earth it had been buried in. Prescott turned his head, pulled his handkerchief away, and vomited. He wiped the vomit from his mustache and held the handkerchief to cover his nose and mouth. Turn him over, he said to the men. Worms and the other creatures of the dirt had eaten all the saw part, gut, crotch, eyeballs, lips, and tongue. It looked little more than a skeleton, with tightly stretched, thin yellow-brown skin and a tuft of straw-like hair. Looks kind of like Henry, Ed said. Freddie spoke up. Didn't Henry drown with his Jap? You mean Hideki? Prescott interrupted. Yeah, that Japanese guy, Hideki, Freddie said. If he drowned, Ed added, how could he be up here? We never did find him, just his Hideki. Prescott looked closer. Just below the tattered hairline, he saw a faint discoloring in the yellow-brown skin, a darker, now black, silver dollar-sized birthmark. And Prescott knew Ed was right. What are you lot doing up here? Working Henry's old claim, Ed answered. Yeah, Ed won it from him, Freddie said, smirking. And the house? Are you fellows using the house? No one was using it, Ed said. Prescott heard someone behind him, and he turned to see Ellen emerge from the brush. Her heavy denim skirt, blouse, and brown hair were wet, and she breathed heavily. Ellen, you shouldn't be here, he said firmly. Trying to block her sight line, he stepped towards her. I need to see what would pull you away from that commotion on the dock, she said, trying to look around his heavy frame. My God, is that a body? Her speech was muffled by her hands. Ellen, you need to go back home. Be with your boys, Prescott said while placing his hand on his shoulder. He looked over his own shoulder and saw that from her vantage she could see everything. It's Henry, she said plainly. Prescott dropped his hands. You need to go home, Ellen, his voice spiking. It's Henry. Maggie said he went out with Hideki. My God. Ellen looked up into Prescott's brown eyes. She left 2 weeks ago. Henry didn't drown. Prescott only studied her face.
Obvious you haven't lost your touch, Dan. Thank you so much for sharing that one. Oh, the places we have gone tonight in the things that was very engrossing, and yeah, as a first chapter, yeah, people are going to read on. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the evening, and you're going to have to forgive me. I am not going to read tonight because I've got to go get some water in some RVs so we have some water to function, and probably a little bit left at the house to haul too. So, but I just want to say what an incredible eclectic variety of stuff we had tonight, and some really high quality readings, and it was a delight to forget about moving and be transported for a couple of hours here and be with you all. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to our feature, Vicki Drybrough, for stepping in and sharing that powerful story. And thank you to all the open micers who shared their work, and for those who came to listen. Shawna's going to bring something next time to read. She's assured me. She gives me a thumbs up. And thank you to everyone out there in Zoom land and for bringing your beautiful work to share, and keep on writing, everybody. And we'll look forward to doing this all again next month at the same time, the last Wednesday of the month. And Karl, who have we got on for feature next month? Bill is gone. Beautiful. Awesome, Bill. I'll look forward to having 20 minutes of you. That would be fabulous. All right. And a big thanks to Char here at Char's Landing for hosting us, making it all work. Thank you to Karl for being our moderator, keeping us on track.
And thank you to Derek.
Oh, my pleasure. And for those in house, thank you to Sheila for keeping us all our glasses full and our bellies fed. All right, take care all, and we'll see you all next month. Except I guess we won't see Jennifer. We'll miss you. We'll see you in August, or June, July. We'll see you in
July, yeah.
Yes, okay.
I'll be on the way back from Paris or just back or something.
Wow.
Oh, so we're going to miss you.
If that doesn't inspire poems, I
hope that I want to hear a poem, but not in French.
No fear. I can't do that.
You could sprinkle a little in, just because you've been there.
Just a little bit.
A few bon mots.
That's right. Okay, take care, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night here.